Hello all, this is Michael Doane, dialing in from Cape Town, South Africa. I want to thank Ginger right off the bat for inviting me to greet you all here very briefly at the beginning of SEE18 in Dallas, Texas. I'm sorry I'm not there this year. I'm 11 hours by the clock away from you, but about 25 hours away from you in terms of the airplane ride, and just didn't make it this year. I know I have other friends in the room. Tony Caesar, you got to be there. Thanks again, Tony, for the cover quote on the book that Ginger and I made. It was great. PK Kieran, you around? John Kent and I need to talk to you soon. Other people, Jessica Mann, Gus, I think I can see you, Gus. I can't imagine you missing this event. Stephen Branch. Thanks again, Stephen Branch, for being such a great host and helper and everything at Sapphire last year in, of course, once again, Orlando. Oh, my heavens. Right. Finally, in absentia, I want to thank my dear friend Brian Dayhill, without whom the book that Ginger and I wrote together would never, ever have happened. Okay, given that you're all gathered on the subject of superuser networks, let's go back to that book just a bit. Scroll back to a year ago as the book was coming out, where Ginger and I were early on talking about drivers at work. Why drivers at work? Why drivers? Well, we view the people who fulfill the business processes, otherwise known as users, are actually the drivers of business, or business drivers. So, drivers at work is our opening to the book. Now, Ginger gave me a great big long list of things to give to you that end users actually do, and super users. It's a very long list. I've cut it short, but here we go. Ginger's list in part. Reduce data errors. Ensure IT project requirements meet departmental needs. Reduce project rework. That's one of my favorites. Accurately train end users on current systems and new changes. They provide accurate, timely, and relevant ad hoc support to end users. And then they're continually learning more and more and better ways to make use of the software assets that you have. They wash the dishes. They paint your house. No, they don't wash the dishes. They don't paint your house, but the point is they do an awful lot. So everyone in this room already knows by heart the phrase business process excellence. Business process excellence is what we're headed for when we make the investments in enterprise software. We implement the software, we design the processes, we begin using them and fulfilling them with drivers or end users. Fact of the matter is, the quality, final quality of a business process cannot be known only through its design. You can design the greatest business process ever, but if the users are uninformed, unmotivated, unguided, just plain shrugging, you're going to end up with a pretty mediocre result to that excellent business process. The missing ingredient is execution. You need business process execution excellence, as well as excellence in business process design to actually succeed. It kind of reminds me of the old joke where you say, well, what did you think of your end user's execution? And I say, if they didn't execute well, I'm for it. Okay, so we're all agreed, everyone in this room utterly convinced of the need, desirability of having a super user network. No argument here, no argument there. So how do you get from nowhere to there? And in the book, Ginger and I explore two ways for you to get there. One is an orderly but progressive and positive evolution. Business people working with super user network people, building the super user network, authorizing it and the like in a very evolutionary fashion. If that fails, we say it should be a revolution. And I have to admit, I find revolution far more entertaining, even if it is hard on the nerves. We make a joke late in the book, landing on the sun, in which we say, okay, yes, we're going to land on the sun. Not to worry, we will not burn up. We have a plan, we're landing at night. That's a nice little joke, but interestingly, the whole notion of SUN, S-U-N, which has been around for quite some time as the three-letter acronym to Super User Network. Well, this year and moving forward, Ginger's taking SUN and she's rebranded to Sun Source. I'm really pleased for her in that regard because the name of what her activity is more in line with who she is. And I added the word source by telling Ginger that, look, you're not just a consultant, you're not just an advisor, you're not just a cheerleader, an earth mother, and an inspiration to all. You are the source. So there you are. You're all attending the very first official event as well, known as Sun Source. Another thing that Ginger has done that I find is quite good, and we talked about actually when we were writing the book. Many of you, of course, come from the world of SAP, as did Ginger and I, but we decided to make the book generic because, in point of fact, superuser networks are not dependent upon an SAP environment. Superuser networks apply to all enterprise applications. So she is now vendor agnostic, shall we say. So, as we're moving forward, where do we go? Now we know how to build them. Now we know how to maintain them. We know why. We know how to sell the concept to business people. We know how to maintain things. So, how mature are all of you out there in terms of what you're doing with your superuser networks? Ginger and I built a maturity model that goes like this. You start with volunteers, right? Or people who have been forced at gunpoint to become end users. They move to getting authorized, getting recognized. From there to having a chartered superuser network, to a governed superuser network, and finally, hopefully, to a matured superuser network. How can any of you accurately assess your overall maturity in that regard? Ginger has a tool that can help. I think you should, if you're interested, ask Ginger about it, because again, you cannot of yourselves objectively and accurately assess your overall maturity from such a near distance. Now, in closing, we've learned, we've tried, we've succeeded, we've proven, we've formalized. The best book out there about superuser networks in this regard is The Superuser Revolution. The worst book out there covering superuser networks is The Superuser Revolution because it's the only book out there. I think Ginger and I agree that we would welcome other books out there that are helpful to the entire world of enterprise applications in this regard. There aren't because it's a matter of fact, and a very sad fact, that superuser networks are not ubiquitous. They're not everywhere. They are not baked in to the world of enterprise applications. So there are still millions and millions of users out there who are crossing the street in the morning on their way to work, knowing and fearing that they do not know what they're doing because they have insufficient support, and are often being blamed for things for which they are blameless when business processes do not get effectively fulfilled. One of the areas, I'm going to scroll back here to effective superuser networks and effective use of the software, and that is that you have to train your users to their role in a business process. They have to understand where they fit in the context of the entire business process, or they cannot succeed. So teach them that role, and have that carried throughout time. It is by any measure a noble calling to improve the lives of all of the firms and the firm's people, by extension, the entirety of the firm with superuser networks. So let's make this a movement. All of you are already behind Ginger, and right now you're probably in front of her as she's looking out into the audience. We need for you to carry on. We need for all of you to pressure the powers that be. We thank and we salute SAP for more and more recognizing the need for superuser networks and the value to the clients of SAP. But we need that to become, like I said, ubiquitous. Now, Ginger has a lot of assets already. She has a lot of friends. She has an advisory board, she has a leaderboard, and she has her never board. That's Ginger. All of you, I thank you for joining me in this christening of what's going to be a wonderful, and I'm quite certain, super day. Thank you again, Ginger, for the invitation. Enough preaching now. Off. Have a great day all. Checking out from Cape Town. This is Michael Doane.